Hello and welcome back to my channel. Tonight I wanted to cover how to use EasyData, which is a backup and restore utility that I created for the sBitx transceiver platform. So one of the things about upgrading to version 5.0 or any of the versions that I have on my GitHub repository, you can use what's called sBitx Toolbox, which is a collection of applications that I wrote for the sBitx transceivers, and one of those is EasyData. So we're going to go ahead and cover that tonight. So one thing I'll show you here is, since I upgraded this to version 3.0, I've added some more files and folders to the backup and restore process over version 2.0, and those include these guys right here. So the old version used to back up sbitx.data folder and the web folder and all that. These MC files, these are your macro files, and of course your data folder contains your call sign database, logs, as well as the important hardware calibration files. So one of the things that people have mentioned is that when they upgrade from one system to another, or they start over, they lose their hardware calibration. Well, this is an easy way for you to back those up and restore them without having to recalibrate your sBitx transceiver. I've also included CQR log. So before this backs up any CQR log files, you would need to go into the software and do an export, and the export will place the gzip file in here and in this folder, so then it will find the files and back those up for you. We also added grid tracker here, so you can, it'll back up your configuration settings for that, as well as trusted as QSL for your logbook of the world, any of your Chromium web browser data, bookmarks, logins, etc. Your auto start folder. If you have any programs that launch at startup, those would be backed up and restored as well. JS8 call, WSJTX, JTDX, and FLDigi are all backed up. So the configuration files and your log files, like your ADIF files. If you set up and are using DroidStar, it will back up your call sign and other data. Same goes for RDOP and QSS-TV, your configuration, as well as your templates, pictures, received, photos, etc. Pat WinLink, if you're using Pat WinLink, it'll back up your configuration files. So there are several files, your config.json file, current config, sBitx config. The sBitx config is actually the default profile that is set up on here for to communicate with the machine. Your anything that's in your .local folder for Pat WinLink. I mentioned FLDigi, as well as XDX, which is it's a DX logger, or not DX logger, spotting tool. General directories such as documents, downloads, pictures, etc. If you're using SunClock is a utility that's much like I guess a poor man's version of HamClock, and it doesn't use a lot of resources and runs real well on the sBitx platform. QT sound modem and QTerm TCP if you're using the like Pat WinLink and some other things. So going back here, the first thing we want to do is you can launch EasyData from the toolbox. So you'd launch the toolbox from here, and I know it doesn't say sBitx toolbox, it says sBitx apps because I thought that would be easier for people. So you'd also find that in the ham radio menu down here. So there's a little icon there. But I just launch it right from here, the menu bar. So when you open that up, if you don't see easy data in the list here, go ahead and go up here to add and then find it in the list and then add it to your list. So in this case, I'll go ahead and close this. So we're going to run easy data for the first time. So one thing with easy data is that you are going to need a USB drive, preferably a blank USB drive, something that doesn't have a lot of important data on it. It doesn't have to be very large. I guess it depends on the size of the data you're backing up on here. I would say at least a 4 gig drive would be sufficient. Even a 2 gig might do the trick. So you don't need anything bigger than that typically. So what you'll want to do is you'll want to grab your USB drive, plug it into your sBitx, and then a lot of times when you plug it in for the first time, you get a pop-up and it'll say, do you want to mount this drive? And go ahead and click yes. And then you'll notice that I have a USB drive here called Centon, C-E-N-T-O-N, and it did show up on the desktop right here. So you'll plug in your USB drive, you'll run this utility, you'll click refresh, and you'll notice when you click refresh, it reads the USB drives that are connected. And if there are multiple USB drives, they'll show up here. But in this case, I know that this is the one that I just plugged in. And then I will go ahead and press backup. Now, when you press backup, it may take a minute to maybe 5 minutes to back up all the stuff on the USB drive. So in this case, I clicked it. You'll see that this is a light gray. So when it's done, we'll get a pop-up message that says your backup's complete, and it'll give you the details of that backup. So while we're waiting for that, you'll notice that there is down here where it says restore files, there is a version here that has already been backed up. I backed this up earlier today. And now there's really no data on here that I'm really concerned about, but I just wanted to show you. Okay, so now we've received a message that says your files were successfully backed up. One of the great things about this tool is that it backs it up to the USB drive and puts it in a folder called sBitx data backup. And then it'll put today's or the current date and the time that it was backed up. So if you have multiple backups on here, then this makes it a lot easier for you to go find the most recent one. You could go back and rename it, I guess, or put some sort of file in there and saying this is for this call sign or this contest, etc. So I'm going to click OK here. So now that my files have been backed up to the USB drive, and I'll show you down here. So the one that the backup we just made does show up in this list. So as I was saying, we do have 2 other backups on this system that I created earlier today. So this will actually list all the different backups, and if I want to pick one, I can go ahead and like I can take the latest one and I can press restore. But before we do that, I'll show you what the contents of the drive looks like. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the Centon drive on my desktop here, and you'll see that it has a folder called the sBitx data backup. Here are my 3 backups that we saw on that list. And if you don't like that look, you can always just do this to change the look here. So this is my latest backup. You'll notice it was created then. So I'm going to go ahead and open this up. And again, all those things that I covered in this list are in here. So our documents, downloads, pictures, pat menu, configurations, of course the important sBitx files such as data. So now this is a test system, so I don't have a hardware settings.ini file, but it would basically be hw_settings.ini. That would be your calibration for your particular radio. The user settings, so your call sign data, etc. Your database, which contains all of your logs, and some other settings in here that are really not that important. Also your web folder. So the web folder contains your macro files for either FT8 or CW. The two built-in modem modes that are on the sBitx. So that's what that looks like. So now I will go ahead and show you how to restore one of these versions. So again, if you'd want to back this up and remove it from your machine, save it somewhere. If you were going to do an upgrade from say a previous version of the sBitx software, one of my images, PiOS images out there, you would go ahead and do that, perform that upgrade. But before that, you would back up all your data with the Easy Data platform. And then you can go ahead and select your version, click restore. And again, this will take a few minutes to restore all your files, but it'll basically go in and overwrite any of the existing files that are on your system, such as the ones in this list, or you can, if those files do not exist, it will go ahead and place them in there. So now you see we get a message that says your files are successfully restored from the USB drive. So now they should be back on the system. So I hope this helps. If you have any questions, you can reach us on Discord. You can send me a message or comment on this video. So I appreciate everyone sticking along with this, and I will continue to make some more videos on how to use the sBitx 64-bit application, sBitx toolbox, and any other topics that you have in mind. So thank you, everyone. I hope you have a great rest of the day, and 73.